Today, Kay Becker is speaking with John Croaker. And John was the General Manager of Australian Brahman Breeders Association for 36 years. And this interview is brought to you by the Australian Brahman Breeders Association in recognition of the 75th year since the formation of the association on the 7th of October 1946. The association and the breed continues to thrive and grow, and many of those stories, past and present, should be recorded for future generations to enjoy.
My guest, ladies and gentlemen, is John Croaker, and for those who've been involved in the Brahman Breeding Association in Australia and indeed in the world, John needs no introduction. Today he's going to talk to us about how BEEF Expo 88, that's now become known as BEEF Australia, started, his involvement and the Brahman Breeders' involvement. Morning, John, how are you?
Morning, Kay. I guess the origin was that when the bicentenary celebrations were being planned in Australia, all industries were encouraged to have some sort of an event to recognise that industry's contribution to the bicentenary. And so Rockhampton being the beef capital, people got together to talk about what we could possibly do in Rockhampton as part of that process. The Brahman Breeders, I guess it was probably about 1984 or 85 that happened, bicentenary being 88 obviously, and the ABBA had run a World Brahman Congress, the first actually ever World Brahman Congress in 1983 to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the importation of Brahman cattle from America by the CSIR, and so I guess that was kind of how the Brahman breeders got involved a bit, because of the success of having run the World Congress. We formed a committee and started to plan things, and then we discovered at one stage that the DPI in Brisbane were also planning to do something, and so we did have some early discussions with them about having sort of follow-on events. But their plans didn't ever really come to much, except that it was still on the table, and so we ended up continuing to go ahead. And I remember that Ken Coombe at one stage went down to Neville Harper's, who was the minister at that stage, and said, "Righto, Neville, now I'm not leaving here until I get an answer." So anyway, after a fair bit of discussion, they agreed that Rockhampton would be the beef industry's event, and the DPI would give some support to that, and that they wouldn't have anything in Brisbane.
So, John,
I guess
in relation to that, obviously you were instrumental in bringing World Congress for the Brahman Breeders to Australia, and that would have been a huge undertaking. The people that you took with you to Brisbane, was that put forward by the Brahman Breeders, or was it a group of just graziers from all breeds and walks of life who decided that the beef industry was worth celebrating, or did government actually come to you?
No, it was really we didn't really go to Brisbane. We really started our efforts in Rockhampton. We had the sort of the first meetings, all the meetings were held at the boardroom at Brahman House. And we formed a sort of a more or less a steering committee, which to sort of try and sort of develop a bit of a program, and then we developed subcommittees, and we sort of really appointed a chairman for each of the subcommittees of the various components. We had sort of property tours, we had prime cattle, we had stud cattle, and then there was social events, and then all of those chairmen were then sort of responsible to get their own committees, and then they actually sat on the main committee, on the overall organising committee, so that we had direct input from all of the committees into the main committee. And I was secretary of and Ken Coombe was chairman, and Phil Hughes was vice chairman. It got to be quite a big committee. John Perko, Keith McCamley, Bruce McCamley, they were all members. We had I just can't remember all of the names right off the top of my head, but I think we got the council became involved a bit. I think we had Cole Brown was deputy mayor. He was he came onto the committee. And then the program just kind of developed from there.
And so Brahman breeders, back then were obviously very supportive of the whole concept, by the sheer nature that the board allowed you to become so involved. And I personally know how much work it takes, and I personally know how much time and effort you put in way back in 1988. Yeah. It was an amazing undertaking, and it's morphed into something that I guess no one who sat around that table ever imagined would happen. So the president of the Brahman breeders at the time was who? Ken Coombe was president when we did that. So it would have been Rob Ennis, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, and so that would have been a huge undertaking. Those people you all mentioned, the McCamleys and those names, Ken Coombe, Innes's, they're synonymous with the Brahman breed. So did you, during the course of that time, did you invite others who were from other breeds, or was it something that was mainly pushed forward by the Brahman breeders? I guess because they'd run something of the size of Congress.
There were quite a lot of other breeds were involved with the commercial cattle and some of the other committees. There was definitely people from other breeds that were involved, became involved. It was definitely an industry event, and that was kind of the way it was intended and accepted. It was just that it was the original office was at Brahman House. Yeah.
And so did you have you were the company, you were the BEEF, what was then known as BEEF 88's secretary, but did you have a staff member supporting you then, or? Yeah.
We ended up with originally we more or less supported it, but as time went on, we did employ some additional staff. We became an incorporated association, just, simply that was a necessity at that stage. I think we called ourselves the Australian Beef Cattle Exposition Association.
Yeah.
We employed a couple of staff, and then as we got closer to the event, there was a few more people involved in the outside, but all of the committee people, the chairman and the and their committee members were all, very very hands-on in those days, and actually, doing some of the things that were required. There was a huge amount of volunteer hours that went into the original few events. We simply, obviously, we couldn't afford to employ a huge number of people. Obviously, it wasn't anywhere near the scale of things that it is today. I mean, the footprint that we had on the showground didn't quite cover the showgrounds for the first one. I think we had a budget of about $600,000, which wasn't too bad considering that it was a greenfield start, and there was a lot of other bicentenary activities that were competing for people's attention and sponsorship as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was involved. I was only, I'll have to admit, quite young in 1988, but I was involved in 1988, and at the time it was pretty spectacular, we all thought, and it certainly did for the beef industry, I guess, what your committee's wish and desire was, and that was to promote the beef industry, certainly to the wider nation, and very much so here locally. So who was the person? Was it because again, coming back to Congress, you would have had to have come up with interesting ideas, I guess, that attracted people, and in the case of Beef 88, the townspeople to come out and participate, and I think the history would show that it was well patronised and by the townspeople, but it was very well patronised by people from across the nation. How much time and effort did you put into trying to attract those sorts of people to come to Rockhampton and be part of it?
Yeah, well, I guess that we did put a fair bit of spent a fair bit of time, developing the program. We certainly wanted to have a conference, and one of the things that we wanted at the conference was not just to talk about the beef things, but to talk about to have a conference that was a little bit out of the box, something that had a bit of flair, and with some of the other things we did, we wanted something that did have a bit of flair. I mean, we had a performance on the stage, if you might remember, and we had I think we had Bryce Courtney was a speaker. I think he was at the first one, or maybe was it at the second one. But yeah, we wanted to do something was just a little bit different, and certainly I think the concept of a national exhibition to showcase the beef industry nationally was it really did strike a chord with people over a wide area of Australia.
Can you remember how many Brahman breeders exhibited in 1988?
No. No.
They would have.
I can't even remember numbers. I know there was a lot of cattle there.
Yeah, they would have been. One of my vivid memories is the street parade. Something that is no longer allowed on the Saturday.
Yeah.
And Brett Coombe riding his Brahman bull down Bolsover Street, I think, sort of was.
Yeah, I think it was Terry.
Was it Terry?
Connor.
Was it Terry Connor?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And and we led steer judging out there on the Ben East Street, and they were. That was. It was all trying to, as you say, involve the public a bit and give them something a bit special.
That's right. So who sat around the table with you then, John, to decide that you were going to run it every 3 years?
Well, that came a bit later, and I guess that sort of came back to there was certainly a lot of pressure to do it. It came from the industry because everybody enjoyed it and felt that it did fulfil a need in the industry. We did, even though we were fairly prudent and careful, we did have a small budget overrun, which was a bit of a problem, seeing as we didn't have anything to fall back on. That was probably part of the motivation that, well, if we'll do it again and get the 20,000 back. So that was probably part of it. But yeah, it was definitely, we didn't set up any, it was always designed to be a once-er. We didn't we weren't set up to make any templates for future or whatever. But so then we felt that 3 years was about the right sort of time frame. We felt 4 years was a bit too long, and 2 years there's perhaps not quite enough change that happens in a couple of years. What we wanted to do was make sure that it was genuinely a national event, and we felt that if we looked at it being any more frequent, that it potentially may have been more regionalised. So anyway, we settled on 3 years, and in spite of quite a few reviews and investigations, that's where it still sits, and I think it's pretty much accepted that it is about the right time frame for everybody, for exhibitors, sponsors, and visitors. It's something they can, sort of far enough out, they can look forward to going back.
So you wrapped up 88. I guess John Croaker went back to being the CEO of Brahman Breeders. I know.
Well, I did keep going to 91. I did the 91 event as secretary of the committee as well.
Yep.
And but by then the office moved out of Brahman House for that, and then we got we had some additional staff. I think Meredith Fawcett, was sort of looking after a secretary position there down there at a sort of office in Cambridge Street, and but it ran along the same sort of lines. I was still on the committee officially as secretary, but we did have some more secretaries or office support for the 91.
Yep. So you stepped. So 91, you stepped away, I guess, in 94 from that official role.
Yeah, after 91. Yeah.
As secretary. The Brahman breed, it continued to foster the BEEF Expo. concept very well, and you know, the Brahmans took out a couple of grand champions, and I remember vividly the grand champion out at the airport for the function, the nighttime ball that was held out there. They then stepped up their presence all completely in relation to the event. So what sort of instrumental part did you play in that? You know, did you go out and say were your leading studs, you know, you need to come on board with this and we need to keep it going, or did it work in reverse?
No, I didn't need too much encouragement. They all, there was just a very universal view amongst the membership that it was a good promotion. It was sort of it was conducted in the centre of our universe, and we needed to put our best foot forward. I mean, it was. And members didn't need too much encouragement for that, and nor did the council. We had a fairly big presence as in trade sites at all of the expos, and we ran the Brahman restaurant in 2000 with John Kilroy, which I think was really the first fine dining attempt at the BEEF Expo, and it really, I think, set the bar and the trend for the for restaurants and showcasing of beef at the Expo.
So just talk us through that in relation to Brahman Breeders, I guess, sponsoring to bring John. Were you then responsible for sourcing the product, or did you say to him, you know, this is how we want this to run? You know, for people who look at it and go, my gosh, it's a big deal, and it is a big deal. What did your role play in underpinning that all went off well and people enjoyed their experience?
Yeah, well, we underwrote it and we organised it. We did it in conjunction with CPC at that stage owned Lakes Creek, and so we had sort of a product supply organised. We had a number of studs sponsored. And they provided product that went into various cuts. John Kilroy obviously did the menu. Toby Scales was very heavily involved with organising that, because Toby was at Alloa at that stage and involved with CPC, and so yeah, it was a collaborative sort of a thing, but yeah, we sort of put the infrastructure together, and John brought his staff up, and he designed the menu, and then we sort of got the sponsors involved, and you know, they were featured on the menu, and their beef went into whatever the dish was that that they were sort of nominated as sponsor of.
So during your time at Brahman Breeders and with the BEEF Expos, what's the memory that you take away that you think that was really funny that all happened like that, or was it all just the pressure was so much that you just head down bum up, so to speak, and getting it done?
Yeah, I think there's always a hell of a lot of relief. I mean, I think that there's been a little bit of a different focus on all of the events as the industries have evolved over time. But and I think all of the expos and each of the committees and boards, whilst we might have been a little bit behind on on the balance sheet with the first one. We put a tremendous amount of goodwill in the balance sheet, that's for sure, because it wasn't too hard to get people back. And I think every committee and board since has really done that. And it was in those early days it wasn't that easy to get sponsors and government support, but as time's gone by, it's got the government's recognised and sponsors have recognised the benefit to the industry and what it can achieve for the industry. It's always been a complete industry event. I mean, there are other events around the world that are bigger, that get more exhibitors or more bigger crowds, but I don't think there is anything in the world that is as complete as this from the more or less the production side, the showcasing, the genetics, the conference, the workshops, the property tours. It is really a complete industry event.
Yeah, it is. It's a little more than paddock to plate, which we hear a lot about. It doesn't involve, like you say, all facets of the industry. So after 91 and you stepped away, did you volunteer on any of the further committees, or did you think, I really need to concentrate back with ABBA and promote our breed to the best we can at the function, and there's only one John Croaker and lots of jobs to do?
I was on the I was on some of the committees, the international committee. I did a bit of just as a committee member on those, and then after it became BEEF Australia, I went back after 2003. I was treasurer on the board for 2006 and 2009.
Yeah. It's a huge commitment from you, but also a big commitment from the ABBA at the time, who were in fact your employer. It was certainly their testimony to wanting to see it succeed and to promote their industry, I guess, and their breed. What was the best win you saw? Who did you walk away from BEEF Expo going, back in your own territory now, back in the Brahman breed? I'm really happy for those people because that's just the icing on the cake for them. Or did you think there's always there's someone better there? We need to try to encourage them to come along and be part of it.
Yeah, I think it was one of those events where the people that participated all got something out of it and felt they got something out of it. Win or lose, winning those grand champions was obviously a thrill for those involved. But pretty all of those people that brought cattle along and exhibited, and particularly some of those ones that had their own trade show sites. The amount of interest that they got was what was really pleasing. I think just that it was something that really did continually work for anybody that puts any effort in. Generally was rewarded for their effort.
Yeah, it's certainly, and I think you would say that that's still the case. It's reward for effort. when the trade cattle, a lot of it is the focus on the stud cattle, and that's certainly what is the attraction to some people. But to bring the trade cattle in was another whole different ball game, I guess. It's not done similarly anywhere else in the country. What involvement did Brahman breeders have in bringing in the trade cattle and I guess promoting your breed to the people?
Well, we had we actually did have we had a trade cattle, a commercial cattle section in our World Congress, and so we wanted to we did that again in '88.
Yep.
Obviously that was it was all breeds in '88, but yeah, the Sale Yards Board was they were always part of the organising committee right from the start, and so that was became sort of the core of the commercial cattle committee, I guess. Yeah.
And so with all the hats that you wore, did you have to play a part in that? Did the council expect that you were across that as well, or did you, as a council, did they delegate someone else to be involved in that?
Well, the council really. They weren't. The council wasn't actually directly involved, I suppose, with the actual Congress sort of organising committee. Apart from that, quite a few of the people, the councillors, were part of the committee. But now most of those committees had a fair amount of autonomy to sort of organise their own particular sections, but they all because the chairman was on the committee, they reported to the management committee. So we were always in pretty good step with what everybody else was doing, and from time to time ideas might get trimmed up a little bit so that they didn't sort of spill over into somebody else's sort of area, or and obviously the programming all had to sort of fit together so it flowed.
Yeah, it's a huge effort to pull all of that part together. Mm. So out of all of the expos that you were involved in, what was your highlight from a Brahman breeder's perspective?
Well, you can't go. Certainly that restaurant. I think when we ran that Brahman restaurant, it was a huge challenge, and I guess we didn't really know what we were getting into, or to have it, to pull it off with, it was obviously great credit to John Kilroy and his staff that it did. But we certainly got a lot of satisfaction out of doing that. The showings have all been good. We had Matthew Noakes's smoking yak at the front of the Brahman compound in 2018. So that was something a bit special too. But
it's
pretty hard to say. But Ken Coombe as chairman was certainly in those early years. Ken was chairman for 88 and 91, and there's not much doubt that he was certainly the driving force behind a lot of what we were able to achieve in those early ones, and he certainly had amazing ability to get people to work with him. It was a lot of the success of those early ones can go down to Ken's ability to get things together and to get people to come on board, I think.
Yeah, he certainly did have a great ability to do that, and I guess the expos to come owe him an debt. I mean, he was passionate about it, and he was passionate about the Brahman breed, and allowed both to flourish. Probably if you'd had someone different in the council, your role may have been different, but he was very keen to see it all progress and do well, and it would have made your job a whole lot easier, I would think. Is there anything else you'd like to add, John?
I think that's about it, Kay. And certainly is pleasing to that the expos are such a firmly established part of the industry now, and serving such a great purpose in developing the industry.
Yeah, they certainly are. And John, thanks for all of your insights today, and I'm pretty sure that the industry won't let you go too far away when it comes to organising the next BEEF Expo, because the knowledge and insight that you have into doing it does not go unnoticed by many in the industry. And on behalf of everyone, thanks for your support and commitment to the Brahman breeders and indeed the beef industry over the years.
Yeah, thank you, Kay.
Thanks for that, John. It's been a great chat. I guess Beef Australia can pay testament to you and to the Brahman breeders for their survival. And the industry on a whole owes you a great debt. You did a wonderful job, and we wish you a happy retirement. I know you're enjoying it, and we'll catch up with you soon. Take care. Bye.